This video is brought to you by Incogni. People love a train wreck. We honestly can't help it. In 1896, the Missouri-Kansas-Texas Railroad, known by its shorthand name Katy, organized a head-on collision between two of its decommissioned 35-ton locomotive engines as a publicity stunt, charging no additional fare to witness the spectacle and basically creating a small town, which was named Crush. The event became known as the Crash at Crush and still has a plaque signifying its location south of Waco, Texas. The event organizers expected 20,000 to attend, but the promotional campaign had been an unexpected success, resulting in over 40,000. After police pushed back the eager crowds to what had been deemed a safe distance, the two opposing trains were set into motion by crews that bailed out before the locomotive sped up. When they met head-to-head, the iron behemoths were going roughly 45 miles per hour, and the resulting crash was spectacular, according to accounts of those who were there. And then both boilers simultaneously exploded, showering the crowd in molten debris and splinters of wood. In the ensuing chaos, 2 were killed and 6 seriously injured. The safety measures had all but assured that the boilers were safer than to explode near a crowd of tens of thousands. But they had been wrong. And when the tragedy made national headlines, it affixed the publicity to the stunt, getting Katy Railroad Company more than enough attention to offset the settlement payments to the grieving families and injured bystanders. The Crash at Crush in a smarter world should have been the end of staged train crashes used to drum up attention. But Americans love a fucking train crash. We still do this, by the way. Grand spectacle, putting random bystanders in one form of danger or another. There's no such thing as bad publicity. One evolution of the modern train wreck or sideshow phenomenon has been reality TV and its malformed content cousin, debate content. But before we talk about these spectacles that you can plainly see every day, I need to talk about something you might not be seeing, and that's your personal data and especially how it's being used. Online data brokers have your information and you have no idea how it's being used. Everything about your life, from personal health information, addresses, IP information, your family members, and other intimately personal details about you or people you love, is very likely at risk and you might not even know it. Data brokers will sell and use this information, which will then in turn be used for algorithms, ads, AI training, and who knows what else. But thankfully, there's Incogni. This video is sponsored by Incogni, which is a service I've used myself to scrub information from data broker sites and places you probably don't even realize your information is being traded and sold. With Incogni, you can get your phone numbers, emails, addresses, and more scrubbed across the web. And with their family plan feature, you can add 3 additional people to the list with all of their accompanying information, allowing you to help prevent your parents who might not be great with tech from being targeted, or to help keep your kiddos safe while browsing the internet. They send monthly requests to their database of more than 230 brokers to remove your information for you, updating you every step of the way. And I've personally used Incogni and can verify just how impressive their efforts are. I know I was shocked at how far and wide my information, even very out-of-date information, had circulated, and I was so relieved I could get it scrubbed. And you can also take your personal data back with Incogni. Use code DEADDOMAIN at the link below and get 60% off an annual plan. One more time, that is incogni.com/deaddomain for 60% off an annual plan, or use code DEADDOMAIN at the link down below. And with that out of the way, let's talk about another algorithmically driven nightmare: debate content. Debate content is not and has never been a particularly effective way to sway the unconvinced. While there are certainly a fair share of stories online of people who have had their minds open to new ideas, or who watched a Destiny or Vosh debate and came away more left-leaning, by and large, they are just the most recent incarnation of the same old spectacle. For most people who participate in them on either side of the equation, it's not about being right, it's about owning someone, about getting a clippable moment, reveling in the Pyrrhic victory of the marketplace of ideas. A lot of the time, the victory lies in the simple fact that the participants got a wider platform to shill their personal brand. If you don't believe me in how little these things actually matter, well, for one, how often do you see people who win or lose actually consider what was said and end up changing their minds based on the facts or statistics that they were pushed back against with? Better yet, how often do you see their fans or fan bases simply act like they won, regardless of how embarrassing the performance was? There are, of course, exceptions, where people will break away from the pack, realizing that they were wrong to follow a content creator after an embarrassing upset. But by and large, people go into these debates not to explore new ideas or seek to challenge themselves, but to see their ideological opposition be bludgeoned in front of others with rhetorical devices and pedantry. These internet blood sports allow viewers to live vicariously through their debate lord avatars. It's more team sports than actual political debate, especially considering how little consideration is given to fact-checking or calling out harmful lies and falsehoods. People watching crave confrontation and validation for their beliefs, no matter how noxious and often uninformed. If they have someone to stand in as their champion who will say the things they believe to an audience that will hear, they will rally behind them, and in the ever-escalating attention economy, debate content delivers that thrill. It's a train wreck that you can see right from your smartphone. But so what? If nobody's convinced by these debates, what's the problem? What's the danger in platforming open Nazis, white supremacists, and others? Well, that's not going to be true of all viewers, certainly. This is why we've seen time and time again the pipelines young people can fall down, fed by algorithms meant to keep your eyes tethered to your screen as long as possible. What starts as simply watching a workout video on a new account quickly snowballs into one podcast on staying fit with a guest from another podcast. Go to that podcast, they're platforming Nick Fuentes. And you're 17, but he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and so on and so forth. In that way, debate content serves to validate the already converted, but also indoctrinate the undecided, and most nefariously, the unsuspecting. Now, more than ever, it's hard for someone to get their bearings in the media ecosystem, leading to people seeking the most base, reactionary content that will affirm their biases and stroke their ego. It's commodified cruelty, and it's incredibly seductive. It's this same content slop pressure cooker that has resulted in the popularity of troglodytes like the Fresh and Fit podcast, by the way, where one popular segment has the hosts bringing on sex workers and OnlyFans models to simply berate them and talk shit when they get up and leave. We've long passed the cultural relevance of the reality TV train wrecks like Jersey Shore, Honey Boo Boo, Jerry Springer Show. The brand of bad taste, once filtered through reality TV, has been decentralized, untethered from the already loose morality of daytime TV and tabloid sensationalism. Now, anyone can just go on the internet and say anything, and if they're loud enough, maybe embarrassing enough, they'll maybe get an audience. And because people love a train wreck, here we are, in an era of unfiltered, unfettered bullshit spewed from every angle with no actual oversight. And with the proliferation of AI and more far-right disinformation than ever, thanks to social media, thank you Elon, we are all just tiny ants in a bathtub, and the slop faucet has been turned on full blast. But what if there was a better way? What if we could somehow put aside our differences, or at least find a way to reach some kind of middle ground on hot-button issues? Yeah, that's the kind of bullshit that Jubilee sells itself on. Founded as a for-profit in 2017, it pivoted to political debate content from a decidedly centrist stance. That is, hosting internet blood sports that are all but guaranteed to get views with catchy titles like "Can One Woke Teen Destroy 20 Trump Supporters?" And for my part, I haven't been abstinent from this slop either. There have been plenty of streams I've reacted to Jubilee content, eager to see my ideological side surely emerge victorious in the vaunted Thunderdome we call the marketplace of ideas. Oh, sue me, I'm a bad leftist because I like watching Sam Cedar dismantle people like Goro from Mortal Kombat. But now we've reached a point with Jubilee where I feel we truly need to reckon with the idea of what, if anything, is actually achieved through these debates. Something that people have, including myself, talked about plenty before, but it's kind of reached an escalation point. Do people walk away from these encounters convinced, changed, or even slightly open to new ideas? I mean, yes, we have gotten some surprisingly honest clips, like this honest gut reaction from somebody seeing Charlie Kirk's Smilex brand-sponsored rictus grin for the first time.
What does fetus mean in Latin?
What the f***? I'm sorry, is this
It means little human being.
Ooh, this smile is very creepy.
Yet, viewed in totality, I can't help but wonder if this is just another exercise in public train wreckery, where we all collectively realize the stalemate society is at between people who value information, science, and reason, and Trump supporters. And if you're wondering where do they get all these people, you can actually get a look into their casting process on their website, which lists several episodes currently in pre-production, where they're writing looking for conspiracy theorists, conservative Christians, and anti-capitalists. Clicking on these casting calls shows you how little is actually revealed in the casting calls themselves, which has led to several questions about Jubilee's lack of transparency with its contestants, especially in the wake of prominent content creators being confused or coming out after they were on Jubilee and talking about being misled. More on that in a second. I mean, Jubilee has stumbled into a successful formula, but how much of that success is based in deception is what people need to be asking. I first noticed this a couple months ago during a debate focused on Jordan Peterson, where he literally got into an argument with another attendee over what the name of the video actually was.
You're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
Don't be a smartass.
Either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
You can see them argue in real time, seeing Peterson's confusion when the debater asks him the title of the video that they agreed to be on. It was too good of a clip to not include in the final video, but if you'll notice, it wasn't actually the title of the video uploaded, which was also later changed. So in essence, the simple title was misconstrued to at least one member of the party. Far be it from me to defend the ideological sanctity of Jordan Peterson, but it does bring up questions of the ideological integrity of this internet face-off if the primary target being platformed doesn't seem to understand why he's there. How can we expect there to be any middle ground if the people can't even agree that they're on the same plane to begin with? I figured that this was just Jordan Peterson being Jordan Peterson, who is himself no stranger to embarrassing spectacle, but in hindsight, I think it was a little more insidious, or at least hints at something amiss with Jubilee's operation. As others have noted, Jubilee has reused several of their debaters in multiple videos, most often conservatives, but some left-leaning progressive types too. I'll talk some more about a few of these folks in a bit, because one running trend seems to be that more than a few of them try to use Jubilee to kickstart some kind of career as content creators. As the company's founder noted in an interview with Taylor Lorenz, the ultimate goal of this operation is to see if they can find a middle ground where people can compromise and agree to things, despite the polarized political climate we find ourselves in.
What is the benefit to sort of finding the middle ground between those two views when one is sort of objectively correct and one is a sort of deeply problematic conspiracy theory?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and something that we always make sure we check ourselves too. Are we making sure that we are doing more good than harm? And when we were kind of evaluating that, we said, is there a way for us to find empathy in the midst of all of these conversations? Even with something as far stretching as a conversation between a flat earther and a round earther, no matter what we might believe to be true, and I believe that the earth is round. I think it's scientifically proven.
But it's not really a belief, right? That is just like objective reality.
Yeah, and the question is, can we still see empathy and understand why someone might feel a certain way despite the fact that there are facts to prove otherwise?
I absolutely recommend watching Taylor's interview, by the way, which I'll link down below, because she does a wonderful job of confronting him with some uncomfortable questions like, how do people find a middle ground when one side is arguing for objective truth versus topics like flat earth? And throughout the interview, the most telling aspect of his responses is how he consistently wriggles back to the same idea that Jubilee is just looking to find a compromise, or at the very least, starting a conversation.
I feel like we live in a more dangerous world if two individuals are not able to sit in the same room together and have a conversation. It doesn't necessarily mean that conversation is going to be productive or that anyone is going to necessarily change their point of view, but I think that that is sorely missing. And it's kind of like a ludicrous idea if you think about the opposite, which is just because you and I both have, let's say, a red shirt on or a blue shirt on, that we will agree on 1,000 of the same issues, or if we have opposite colored shirts on, that we would disagree on 1,000 different issues.
Which sure does sound like a noble goal, right? I mean, maybe in a world that isn't being overrun with rampant nationalism and fascism right now, where lives are being actively ruined by the ideologies being legitimized in public spaces, sure. In that alternate world, the starting a conversation line might sell a little bit better, but in this world, it is so evidently a thin cover to just pump out more slop. In fact, it's basically the Mr. Beast model, where the Jubilee startup began claiming to be focused on doing good charitable work and using that leg up to establish itself. I mean, look at all the good work they're doing. Except you can only escalate for so long before one kind of spectacle isn't enough. It gets boring, played out. The audience begins to walk away unless you can spice it up, and nothing is better at bringing that clickbait heat than a train wreck. It's a solid game, to be fair. It's the ultimate case of having their cake and eating it too, where they get to make content that caters to all sides, gets shared by all sides, and also platforms potentially dangerous ideologies, but they can always shuffle back behind the cover of just meeting in the middle. It's an experiment. We're so polarized. Why don't you think starting dialogue is a good thing? Even when that dialogue looks like this.
Everyone,
Carl
even their own
Schmitt makes
supporters.
this point very well in his work. It's the friend-enemy distinction, right? You
Carl
liberals,
Schmitt, the Nazi theoretician.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't care.
Are you a fan of the Nazis?
I don't. I frankly don't care being called a Nazi at all.
I didn't say that. I
Doesn't
didn't actually
matter to
say
me.
that. I said, are you a fan of the Nazis?
I think that there was a little bit of persecution
We
and
may
stuff like
have
that,
to
which is
rename
bad.
this show
but-
because you're a little bit more than a far-right Republican. But
You and your own person are a complete perfect example of why immigration is negative and why we shouldn't allow people
Wow.
who
Why?
don't have anything in
Why?
common with us. You're pro-abortion, you're pro-euthanasia, you're
I'm
you're
pro-euthanasia. I thought
Yeah,
they-
you went.
You're not American. First and foremost, but you're not.
Remember when I said the agitation from you is not going to be lower?
So now you're saying it's racist for me to take an American nationalist approach. You're kind
What
of
is an American national approach? Is that a white approach?
I think it's a white nativist approach. Of course,
Only
absolutely.
Americans are white
Why
people.
did your
So now we've reached a point where everything I've talked about so far converges. The uncritical platforming of open reactionaries, like literal Nazis, blanketed in the vague sentiments of starting a conversation that mostly just covers for the fact that Jubilee as a company only cares about the conversations that come from Google once a month with several zeros attached. Recently, Mehdi Hassan was on a Jubilee debate against what the original video depicted as 20 far-right conservatives. As is common with the more politically oriented debates, several clips quickly made their way around the internet, and particularly Twitter, and it became very apparent that many of the participants weren't merely hard-right Republicans, but literal white supremacists and fascists. This is Connor Estelle. Presumably, he was the mascot and spokesperson for the Cabbage Patch Kids brand before his disastrous appearance where he let some of these gems slip out.
About being called a
Yeah,
Nazi
sure.
is the whole thing.
I never called you a
I
Nazi.
care
You
about
called
doing
yourself
the right
a Nazi,
thing.
a fascist, and a General Franco
Well,
supporter.
yeah, I am a General Franco supporter. He was awesome. He was so super cool, quite frankly. Because the whole
And
thing.
you don't believe in democracy.
I don't believe in
What
democracy.
are you doing here at a televised debate?
Because-
This is democracy. Not what a debate and disagreement.
Because it is the means to support an end.
And after his big break in TV, he was promptly fired. As a great man once said, "Welcome to prime time, bitch." And Connor, as is now normalized, became the latest benefactor of the racist white nationalist safety net, crowdfunding. See, it turns out that Connor is actually something of an aspiring far-right star and has some degrees of association with sex pest Elijah Schaefer, a smear on the underpants of the human experience so foul that even Glenn Beck changed him out. To get a better idea of the scope of this wannabe white nationalist influencer sphere, I interviewed my friend and investigative journalist, Amanda Moore. After going undercover in white nationalist circles a couple years ago, Amanda is probably one of the best experts to speak to as someone who regularly keeps tabs on all the happenings in these spaces. I kind of wanted to get your impression of what was it like recognizing some of these people?
Well, Sarah Stock, who works with Elijah Schaefer, who is like a known white nationalist, she was in when what's his name, Sam did it before, who did a very good job. Like if anybody's going to do it, it should be him. She was in his clips too, so I know that she's been on the show multiple times. This chick is like an open Nazi. She is constantly tweeting white nationalist stuff, and she goes viral all the time. And she's got like 70,000 followers or something now, and she did not used to have that many before she was doing this Jubilee stuff. 13 months ago, Pinesap had 3,000 followers on Twitter. I was not one of them because he blocked me. And I watched him in Detroit in June of last year jump up on a little like wall and give an impromptu speech, look like shit, dress like shit, okay? In like this ugly like cargo khaki pants. It was supposed to be a Nick Fuentes rally, but Nick wasn't there yet. And Pinesap took it upon himself to give this speech about Catholic doctrine. He did what he was supposed to do. He helped keep the crowd entertained till Nick showed up. But like Nick made fun of the way he looked because he was dressed so poorly, and like he wasn't a good presenter. He was not entertaining to watch. He was also inaccurate. Like, there was just like not a lot to work with here, I thought. But it says to me, it's pretty clear, like, he was fine having his face up, right? I was there. I was filming it. The footage that I filmed of him has been played on CNN now at this point, right? He wanted to have his face associated with the movement. He wanted to be out there. And now he is. And it's like in the best possible way that it could have worked for him. And that's why he was at Jubilee, right? Because people are not just randomly showing up at the Jubilee office and then, oh my God, like, you're also like a aspiring white nationalist influencer? That's so crazy that we all are, and it's just a coincidence, you know?
It was also later revealed by independent journalists that Kai Schwimmer, another Groyper and associate of Nick Fuentes, was in attendance and spoke with Mehdi Hasan.
Well, the bleach blonde girl, Daniela Pensac, got fired from Turning Point USA, presumably for being a white nationalist. I was in the middle of working out a story about it. She was working with their high school teams in the Pacific Northwest, so she would go to high schools and start Turning Point chapters and, like, be a mentor to these minor children. And in the meanwhile, she's, like, just posting straight up Nazi shit.
They see this as just a plain victory that they are being platformed, or is it bad for them when they get publicly owned?
Oh, no, they don't give a fuck about the debate portion at all. Like, it is very clear that this is about that, like, springboard to some kind of viral fame. And there's also, like, this misconception. I mean, many of these people are quite young. And so there's this misconception of, oh, you have this many Twitter followers. Like, obviously you have a ton of money, like, whatever. Like, that's just not how it works. And in right-wing spaces, it is different because there's a lot of undisclosed advertisements of the political nature that you do get money for, but many times they actually don't even really pay that well themselves. But there's like an abundance of them. But you know, these are people who've already thought, I hope I, you know, can use Richard Spencer to get followers. These are people who have already like been like, I'm gonna jump in front of Nick Fuentes to get followers. So these are not people who are like at all like going to see any downside to any attention that they get. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about convincing Sam Cedar, Mehdi Hasan, or me or you about any of their stupid points. They just care about that space. And so I've had people who don't like some of these characters, these Jubilee characters, gossip with me. I mean, they're right wingers, you know, they have all the same beliefs. But like gossip with me about like, oh, look at what so-and-so was tweeting 6 months ago. And now they're saying this, they just want the clout. And it's like, they know, they see Jubilee for what it is. They see it as a vehicle to have viral fame and get thrown a couple of bucks for some, you know, undisclosed GOP aligned kind of political tweets, and to get subscribers and, you know, to get a reply from whatever fucking Nazi, maybe get a shout out from Nick. You know, that's how they see it.
Now, when I saw Mehdi start to convey what aspects of the debate hadn't been conveyed to him beforehand, namely that he wasn't just talking to Republicans or Trump supporters, but open, virulent racists and white nationalists, I had a brief flashback to Jordan Peterson. I mean, what are the odds that a company like Jubilee, which has found success pivoting to confrontational and divisive subject matter, would misrepresent its productions to the various ideologies that it depends on to also promote their content? Make no mistake, they might not shill for Jubilee, but names like Sam Cedar, Mehdi Hasan, even Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro mean something to Jubilee's marketing team, regardless of what side of the political spectrum they fall on, regardless of how well argued their points are. They are names that carry built-in audiences, and with that brand awareness, so Jubilee knows that if they put their names on something, people will watch. But who would want to watch a well-intentioned, polite conversation between reasonable adults for 2 hours and then come back for consecutive videos? Inversely, which of these pundits would willingly step up to be surrounded by, as in Mehdi's case, a bunch of racists who advocate openly violent rhetoric against people of color and progressives in general? So then, what's the solution to this equation that gives Jubilee the spicy, clippable content that keeps people coming back? Obfuscation. Under the guise of having simple conversations, these videos lack any real adjudicators, and fact-checking, something the founder brought up in his interview with Taylor, is literally an afterthought, pasted into the footage in Adobe Premiere after the fact. In essence, Jubilee's job isn't to actually platform well-meaning debates, because if it was, they wouldn't pick such incendiary topics to start with or such inconsistent participants. No, instead they found the golden ticket to profiting off of the debate space by playing to both sides, giving platforms to bigots in the process, while also allowing for the right combination of circumstances for endless clips of people on all sides getting owned. Like, some of these poor schlubs are set up just as badly as the main guests. You're going to put this ill-informed dork who looks like he dropped out of barista school up against Sam Cedar? Like, this shit is brutal.
We're talking about government agencies that do not get tax cuts. Government agencies...
They don't.
No.
Yes, they do. They absolutely do.
I'm talking about
every private and public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Government agencies don't pay taxes. Government agencies are funded by the government.
That is not true.
Said Dork, by the way, is something of another recurring star and was also on Medi's episode. He's been in several Jubilee videos where he confidently makes an ass of himself every time, making for great content as far as clips go, even if it hasn't translated to any real name recognition. Still, that hasn't stopped him from trying to crib from multiple familiar grifts on Twitter like, change my mind, or even just being a Catholic conservative and maybe gay. I'd say he should pick a struggle, but it seems like his biggest battle is uphill and it's trying to get noticed. See, this is actually kind of the perfect candidate for Jubilee, someone who's terminally Los Angeles pilled, who is always seeking new ways to get attention like a truffle pig, but also someone who's reactionary and overconfident and also deeply stupid. It's a potent combination that leads to the watchable moments Jubilee wants to aim for, which is incidentally the same as Pinesap. You see, after he was fired from his job and started a crowdfund, Feels Guy / Pinesap / whoever was then retweeted by somebody named Sarah Stock. Doing a little digging, Sarah Stock is associated with something called Riff TV, which I believe is run by Elijah Schaefer. And Elijah in turn runs Riff TV / Slightly Offensive, or whatever the hell this show is, primarily on Rumble, where they can just kind of say whatever noxious shit they want. And it seems like they are trying to make Feels Guy / Cameron / whatever his name is something of a rising star, using the name Pinesap for whatever reason, and they've already started interviewing him for that. In essence, this is yet another person who really wants to gain more prominence in the right-wing grifting space, and is using Jubilee as a platform to do that. And he's not even the only one. There are a couple groypers and other white nationalists who were at the Mehdi Hasan debate who have come forward and talked about the experience, using it in an attempt, sadly, to get even more popularity, even though it kind of just makes him look like a little bitch to say stuff like, no, I didn't go up because I didn't want to. Dork. In aiming to become the jack of all trades, Jubilee is indeed now a master of none. But by catering to such a wide swath of the reactionary masses, they've now become a platform content to uncritically platform people who aren't just stupid, but who will then regurgitate often inflammatory rhetoric, feeling validated because sometimes they're surrounded by like-minded peers, or at the very least, they feel that they can get a little bit more clout. And now, because they built an entire business model and content model on giving dickheads 5 seconds of fame, other dickheads are trying to use that inch to take another 10. And personally, I don't think this Pinesap guy has the requisite sauce to make much of a dent beyond this crowdfunding. Maybe a lonely YouTube program somewhere, or maybe he'll work with sex pest Elijah Schaefer. But take it from me, you can't just rely on spectacle to make a name. You'd need to actually stand out, and that usually takes quite a bit of hard work, something this approach to quick notoriety is directly at odds with. And Pinesap, if you don't believe me, you can just take it from fellow former Bob's Big Boy mascot, Kyle Rittenhouse. But whether he carves his name into the annals of right-wing grifter history or is just relegated to the annals of it is immaterial to the main point, which is that Jubilee has now played a pivotal role in giving a Nazi a wider platform. And this is a good thing for them, by the way. Sure, the train wreck may have killed 2 people, but look at all of this publicity. Look at all the people who want to see the spectacle for themselves, to witness somebody getting owned. If you need proof, look at the view count or at the news articles covering the incident. And in the end, they still get to claim they were just opening up an avenue of conversation, just having a dialogue, just trying to bring everyone together. And in a way, that's true. They gave the conversational ground to Nazis. They helped them legitimize their incredibly stupid ideology. They brought them all together to help fund a budding bloated star in the unmaking. And in the end, that doesn't matter to Jubilee or YouTube who platforms them. They've shown consistently their lack of any concrete morals by who they platform. People like open anti-Semite and broad daylight Nazi conspiracy theorist Candace Owens, yet they do it anyway. And if nothing is done, they will continue to do it. Matt Bernstein has supported and been passing around a petition that I will link down below that I fully recommend signing and passing around to call attention to this issue because it is genuinely concerning how massive a platform Jubilee has and how it's used it to help legitimize and connect open white nationalists. It's the exact kind of enlightened centrism bullshit that has allowed for the open festering wound of nationalism and bigotry to infect so many other aspects of our daily life. And the only way to stop that infection is to cut it off. These ideas being presented by these people are not normal. They are, in fact, antithetical to a happy, healthy, prosperous society. Yet, like daytime TV, they appeal so viciously to the lowest common denominator. Despite any efforts to stem the damage from spectacles like this, they will always continue to draw views. The best advice I can give is to look away, because not every train crash needs spectators. That's why they hold them, but without the attention economy and the algorithms that continue to boost the fires Jubilee starts, them and their model will be snuffed out from lack of oxygen. We don't need to see the disaster. We know what it looks like when two trains hit each other, and it's not surprising anymore when the boilers explode and people get hurt. It's just surprising that people are still doing it because the publicity outweighs the harm it's going to do. And don't forget about taking your personal data back with Incogni. Be sure to use code DEADDOMAIN at the link down below, or go to incogni.com/deaddomain to get 60% off an annual plan. One more time, that is incogni.com/deaddomain, or use code DEADDOMAIN at the link in the comments down below and get 60% off an annual plan. With that out of the way, thank you very much for watching this latest tiny little essay. I may in fact have another more in-depth investigative piece on who exactly some of these white nationalists and groypers were, but that is of course coming after some of the other investigative pieces and other videos I've been working on, which are aplenty. If you've enjoyed this video, or if you want to help me continue doing my investigative work, whether that be my documentary work, my streaming, any of these little essays I do, please feel free to check out the links down below to throw a couple bucks my way, or if you want to join all the cool cats and kittens scrolling across your screen right now, you can also join my Patreon and get access to the nifty little Patreon Discord server and all other fun little bennies, including seeing videos like this in production on occasion when I remember to update my patrons. With that all out of the way, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.